today's collectible spot, we are having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Star Trek The Next Generation Starship Legends. This is the U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701-E. All the following phrases and sound effects: ready phasers and quantum torpedoes, fire all weapons, all hands battle stations engage, as well as some special effects, sound effects of warp engines, phasers firing, and torpedoes firing. This is seen from the movie Nemesis, but it was also featured as well in basically all of the Next Generation movies except for the very first one, of course, that being Generations, which I think is actually my favorite of the Generations movies. I know a lot of people like First Contact, not many people like Insurrection, and I don't think there's really a lot of people that like Nemesis, but actually my go-to for a Next Generation movie was always Generations. I always like that. Featured here is in the same box artwork as some of the other starships that we had a look at. In this case, you've got 1.5 volt or AAA batteries. They are included, so if you are picking this up for yourself, the batteries will be installed already. And you've got on the bottom corner of the box a nice picture there of a young Patrick Stewart as Captain Picard. Spin around the box itself to the back of the box. You've got the U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701-E electronic starship, which actually fills most, if not all, the starships from Spot's collection. The only one I'm missing is still the Enterprise D. I'd like to get my hands on that one as well. The length of this particular Enterprise is a whopping 685.7 meters, with 29 decks, 855 crew, and a max capacity of 9,800. So it can actually fit a fair bit in the ship's decks there. Max speed also is a warp 9.975 plus, so it can even top past 9.975. The Sovereign class starship design NCC-1701-E is the 7th Federation starship to bear the name Enterprise, entering service shortly after the destruction of the Enterprise D in 2371. Under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the top-of-the-line Enterprise E became the new flagship of Starfleet, undertaking important diplomatic missions as well as dangerous military ones. The Enterprise has since saved Earth at least twice, the last time from a new Romulan energy weapon that threatened to destroy all life on the planet. To check out more from the folks over at Diamond Select Toys, you can head over to www.diamondselecttoys.com, but as well, you can also follow Diamond Select also on their YouTube channel. Did you know that they had a YouTube channel? They do. Spot will put the link down below as well, so you can see some upcoming releases, kind of hands-on, which is nice and cool. Nice video hands-on of what the collectibles, figures, and so many other things that they're going to be releasing. You can kind of see a hands-on look at them before they actually come out. So I'll put the link down below for their YouTube channel as well. That being said, Spot is going to take a break. I'm going to get this out of packaging. And when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Star Trek The Next Generation Starship Legends, the NCC-1701-E U.S.S. Enterprise. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. The following things will come included with the NCC-1701-E. Of course, you get your starship, and then as well, you get yourself a display stand for displaying the ship. I've got a little bit of a scuff here on the base portion of it, which features the new Starfleet insignia, something now carried over into, of course, Voyager had it, and then the later Star Trek movies. We can go ahead and take the adjusted neck, or the neck that comes for the base. We snap it in place. And for that, it's easiest if you tip it on an angle, slide it in kind of into place like so, and once those two tabs are cleared, then you can snap these down, and you got yourself a nice secure fit. Now, this is a follow-up essentially to the NCC-1701-A Spot just had a look at, and I had issues, unfortunately, with the NCC-1701-A fitting itself onto the display stand. I'm going to have to still take like something just to kind of whittle away at that hole on the underside so I can get it to actually attach into place. The NCC-1701-E, yeah, it has a little bit of the creaking problem getting it into the base, but I did notice, though, that if you wiggle it just a little bit, you can get that easily secure into place. As you can see, I had a lot more success getting the Enterprise E onto its display stand. It was not a case necessarily that the ball joint just takes a lot of wiggling to get it in. That would be the case for the Enterprise E. The Enterprise A, though, unfortunately, still had the hole was just not big enough to accommodate getting that ball joint in place. Sure enough, wiggling this around, I'm able to get the Enterprise E perfectly attached. It's not going to go anywhere. And with it also being a ball joint, you can move these ships then to any display option that you might want. If you're not necessarily opting to have it displayed on a display base, I'm not sure really why you would just display it without. But nonetheless, the folks over at Diamond Select also include an interchangeable plate that just replaces out. You've seen it with the Enterprise A. Simply just take the stand off, which again, you'd be very careful pulling that off. And essentially you're just going to unscrew this plate here and replace it with, as you can see right there, it's basically almost identical in display other than it doesn't have the hole there. So you can use either or. Not sure why you would display it necessarily without it, but nonetheless the option is there if you wish. Okay, so let's have a look at the Enterprise E now up close and personal. I'm not as big a fan, I have to admit, in the Enterprise E as I was with the Enterprise D. The Enterprise A is still my favorite Enterprise of all time. I would feel in the way of ships, like the Enterprises necessarily, I would put this one right below, personally, just my own opinion, I would put this below the Enterprise D. If I was to probably put them in order, I would go like A, I think A, D or A, the original NCC-1701. Then I'd put the D, then I'd put the E, and then maybe I'd do like the C or whatnot afterwards. It wasn't my favorite design for the ships, I have to be honest. It was different, and I like that it had a more sleek look to it, but it wasn't my favorite design as a whole. One thing that the Enterprise E brought a lot to the table was color. More against the very, very neutral presentation of the Enterprise A. The Enterprise E, on the other hand, has much more in the way of not only the Aztec coloring, which essentially is all like these little irregular shapes here colored in, but then it has the inclusion of this darker blue-based gray that makes up the majority of the saucer section surface. And then you've got this really interesting, not quite Aztec printing, but this additional printing here that's all around the sides. The escape pods, I think these are escape pods, are colored nicely in like a yellow color. And they run all the way around the sides of the ship and around the interior, basically in circular formations here. You've got your aft thrusters, you've got your nacelles here, colored nicely in a translucent blue plastic. Those will light up. And of course you've got your front sections of your thrusters there as well. Deflector dish on the underside, more sunken in. I always noticed with the Enterprise E, it was much further back as opposed to the Enterprise A, kind of having it in as more of a kind of the showcase for the ship itself was the deflector dish, whereas the Enterprise E kind of has it more recessed. It's pushed further back. The same coloring features is featured on the top, carried over to the underside, a little less of those blues and more favored with the grays and silvers. And you've got NCC-1701-E there. Some nice smaller details there as well. Starship U.S.S. Enterprise, United Federation of Planets. Very, very small to read, but they're nonetheless. Starfleet logo. And you've at the back section there, you've got your shuttle bay. More of that Aztec printing, carried over very nicely. Presumably, the Enterprise E, I think, could also separate. Now, this ship obviously doesn't recreate that, but I think the intention was that this Enterprise E could also separate in the same way as the Enterprise D. And Captain's yacht underneath there as well. Which, unlike the Enterprise D, actually, at least you see the Enterprise E making use of that. Some, again, really nice coloring. It's a smaller ship. which is, I guess, by just the fact of its length. Its length is about the same size. In fact, hold on one second. Let me get you an example. Yes, if we bring in the Enterprise A, which we just recently looked at, the ships are roughly about the same length. Enterprise E's got a little bit more ahead of the A in the way of the saucer section, but like if you look at the back thrusters, they're roughly about the same size, not that much different from one another. Unfortunately, though, to not scale these, I mean, obviously, it would be harder to scale these because this is a good size for a ship. The Enterprise E, just by nature of the fact it would be a much larger ship, there's no way Diamond Select could make an Enterprise E. Obviously, it would be way beyond the scope of this backdrop. It would be all over to the floor by how much bigger this would be versus the Enterprise A. So, unfortunately, it sacrifices a little bit that on a scale level, it's not quite to scale, nor could it be. I understand what they had to do, so by virtue of that, you will see that when you display these guys, Enterprise E will appear a little bit smaller, which couldn't be further from the truth. Now that we looked at some of the details, let's look at the lights and the sounds. I've already gone ahead and the AAAs were already included. I just went ahead and took the plate off and I switched it from tri to full play because the tri will only give you some of the phrases and some of the sound effects. Wanted to show you all of them in their entirety. So with that now in place, we can go ahead and press, much like the Enterprise A, press the little top of the, essentially where the bridge is, press the button on the top and it'll light up the back aft thrusters as well as the main thrusters and nacelles. Those will light up in nice blue. And let's go ahead and press the buttons now.
Ready phasers and quantum torpedoes.
Which you can hear Patrick Stewart there.
Fire all weapons.
And the nacelles light out very nicely on the front. Thrusters on the back, nice in blue. And you can see that even the back section of the saucers also light up a nice yellow. We flip it on the underside.
All hands, battle station.
You see that the
engage
deflector dish lights up a nice bright yellow. And like the other ships as well, if you hold the button,
all hands, battle station. Engage.
You'll see that it stays as a longer option for light up abilities. And we'll cycle through some of the sound effects actually.
Ready phasers and quantum torpedoes. Fire all weapons.
In fact, it's one of the things that makes the Enterprise E also different from the other starships too. The other starships, you've held the button and it just kind of stays on or flickers. It does some of the sound effects. The Enterprise E, on the other hand, as you can hear or have heard, it cycles through phrases one after the other, which is a nice touch for displaying it. Let's cut the lights like we did with the Enterprise A, and you can see how the Enterprise E looks in the dark. Let's go ahead and press the button again.
All hands, battle station. Engage. Ready phasers and quantum torpedoes. Fire all weapons.
Yes, the Enterprise E is not one of my favorite of the starships. That title can still be given to the Enterprise A, but I still think that the Enterprise E did bring something different to the table, a much more sleeker, more colorful looking entry into the Enterprise lore. It introduced itself in the First Contact and then ran itself through till the final run in Nemesis, and I have to admit it did grow on me, not still being my favorite of the ships, but it still grew on me a little bit more than when I initially saw it in First Contact. I think Diamond Select have done a really great job on the ship itself. Smaller, yes, but just by scope of how big these ships would have to be in comparison to one another, it would be impossible for them to have made an Enterprise E scaled appropriately to an Enterprise A, for example. This will go very nicely on display along with the classic original NCC-1701 Enterprise and the Enterprise A that we just recently had a look at. The only one I really want to get my hands on now is the Enterprise D, which sadly has eluded me. Perhaps if I'm able to pick that up, you'll see it in a future video. In the meantime, today's collectible spot, we were having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Nemesis release of the NCC-1701-E. Speaking of Diamond Select as well, not only can you go to www.diamondselecttoys.com, but you can also follow them on their own Facebook or on their own YouTube channel, I should say. They have Facebook too, but you can also follow them on their own YouTube channel as well if you'd like to see some upcoming releases from that company. So I'll put the links down below. Certainly stay tuned, guys. Spot's got more videos heading your way as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.